Welcome everybody, Rusty Blackwood here, and I once again invite you to my loft on this July 18th, 2023 day. We're now in the middle of July and not quite the middle of summer yet. When we get to the 21st, we will be midway in summer, and it is fairly warm today. It's not as warm as it's been, but it's still, it's close. If you're outside, it is, you know, it feels the air feels heavy. I've got my air conditioner turned off right now because of the racket that it makes. When I was listening to my last video, I had my air conditioner going, and I made mention of the fact of the noise of it in the background, but it really was quite predominant, and so hopefully by having it off, you hear my audio much better than the prior video, and so as I say, the summer has been hot, but I mean that's to be expected. It is summertime, and heat and humidity are part of summer. And I'm just going to get a little bit of drink of water here before I begin too far. So cheers. And I know we've had a lot of hot weather this summer so far. But as I say, it's summer, and it's to be expected. And it has always, in summertime, it has always been hot weather, streaks of it at least, if not steady. Hot weather and humidity, and that is part of the summer season. It always has been, and it always will be. Has nothing to do with climate change or global warming. If people that believe that falsity, if you actually took the time and read history, went back to record keeping as far back as it goes, you would see, yeah, this is normal. This is summer. It is to be expected that it's going to be hot and it's going to be humid, and that's why air conditioning was invented, and before that fans, electric fans, and before that hand waved fans, and before that I don't know, if you had access to water, to a river or to a lake or a pond that was clean enough, that wasn't full of, at least in the country, that wasn't full of bloodsuckers and things like that, you could get in and splash around and cool yourself down. But believing that this nonsense, that this propaganda that is constantly pushed down people's throats day after day after day, when we get to winter in Canada, I mean, we have really more cold weather in Canada than we have warm. The summers, aren't, oftentimes it takes well into June, sometimes even into July before we start to get any heat. Sometimes it can be quite cool and rain, but when the heat sets in, it's usually quite hot and sticky, and but only in fleeting time. Summer goes by very, very quickly. All the seasons go by quickly, but we have actually, in balancing it out, we actually have more cold weather in Canada than we do warm, and you mark my words, when we get to winter, and it's snowing and blowing, and the temperatures are dropping down below zero and going down, then you'll be hearing them scream. There again, climate change. It is, you know, we're going into the next ice age. We're all going to freeze to death. You know, it's one dramatic scenario after another, and I'll tell you, it gets not only tiresome, it gets boring, and very, very boring. And I wish more and more people, I think more and more people are opening their eyes and cluing into um, the crap and the nonsense that we're being fed constantly. But I keep hoping more and more and more will open their eyes and realize, look around you, you know, read your history. You know, they're trying to erase it, of course, because by rights, you learn from history, or at least you should. And so that you don't repeat the mistakes that were made. And I mean, and there were many, many mistakes made in life. Life is making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And as long as you hopefully can do your best to learn from your mistakes and not repeat them, um, that's all you can hope for. And and so I've got my air conditioner today turned off for a while. I was listening to my last video, and it was a very hot day outside that I did that, and that video, and so I had my air conditioner on, which is in the back dormer window here, and um, and the noise. I made excuse, you know, apologetic to the fact of the noise from the air conditioner, but it was badly needed. I couldn't go the period of time of that video, because it went a bit longer, quite a bit longer than what my normal videos are, because of the subject that I was talking about, and because it was a sensitive subject, and I was, you know, reliving it, and as I spoke about it, I mean, I needed to be as comfortable as I could be, and so I left the air conditioner going, but it really was a nuisance and noise in the background that really I could have done without. But so today I'm going to try to stay around my 30-minute mark on this video, and hopefully I do, because as I've said many times, it takes too long to upload them, and even for those watching, I hope that that last video, the topic I was talking about, I hope people stayed with me through the entirety of it, because what I was talking about continues to happen. It is very serious, and it could be, in many ways, it could be fatal to some. I was fortunate, I was lucky, but many, many are not. And it, with the internet and with society in general, the way it is, what seems to be acceptable, all of this liberalism, this woke nonsense, people are just expected to accept whatever comes their way, not complain, not say a word about it or against it, and I think it's just going from bad to worse, and with seems like no end in sight. But everything balances sooner or later. Everything finds its balance, and then the pendulum starts to swing the other way for a while, and then of course reaches the balance, and then it'll go back the other way again. And when that time comes, I hope that if it goes back to liberalism, that it goes back to traditional liberalism, what liberalism used to be. Nothing wrong with liberalism. It stands for liberty, and everyone has the right to liberty, and everyone has the right to be heard and to be noticed and to be listened to. But what it's become today, and for quite some time, definitely the last 8 years, this is not liberalism. This is just total nonsense and total idiocy, and playing out an agenda, let's put it that way. You know, all these players, you know, that are all these puppets that are being danced on the strings by a person that has this idea that he's so superior and he's going to call the shots and he's going to tell people they're not going to own anything and they're going to be happy and they're going to eat bugs and they're going to not complain and everybody's going to bow down and be good little servants and you know, live in your little 6x6 if you're fortunate to have that, and beg for everything that you'll ever have the rest of your life, and you will be happy. My heavens, is that loon in for a big eye-opening experience, and can't come soon enough. And all his puppets. People used to talk about Hitler and what a madman he was. And Hitler was before my time, before I was born. I was born after World War II. I was born in 1949. My brother Rick was born in 1943 during the war. But I mean, he was just a little child when the war ended. So I mean, he would have no remembrances of it. But I will remember my mother speaking about it, what it was like, because she had her two older brothers, like next under her. My mom was the oldest of her family, and they were both in war. They went to war. Uncle Melvin and Uncle Doug, and Uncle Doug was a gunner. He worked in the artillery, and Uncle Melv was in the infantry, and he walked the front lines with his gun, with the bayonet on it, and I can remember as a child thinking, because I was old enough to understand what war was, what had happened, and we didn't talk about it a lot in our house, but the fact that Mom's two brothers were in the war, what we were told was firsthand information, because they were there and they witnessed this, that they spoke about, and so you knew you could believe it, and because they were both very honest men. And I just remember my mother saying the two brothers, her two brothers, she said they were not tame to begin with, especially Uncle Melv. He was quite wild, liked a good time. Uncle Doug was apparently a little bit more reserved. But Mom said the two brothers that left to go to war were not the two brothers that came back. What they had gone through and what they had witnessed, well, it must have been, especially Uncle Melv, it just must have been horrific. He did speak about different things, and but only for so long, and I'm sure he didn't divulge everything, because you could tell by the look in his eyes and the expression on his face, like he was there. He was right there again, and I can remember my mother, my mother saying, come on, now, Carol, that's enough. You don't need to be knowing all these things. But Uncle Mel, he would say, no, it's okay. How else is she going to learn? I mean, she has a right to know these things. Everybody has the right to know these things. And so he would go on and talk a little bit more about whatever was he was talking about at that particular time. And but I know, like, he would get upset, and he'd just sometimes lay his head down on his arms on the table, and for a little while, and then he would get up and away he'd go, and wouldn't see him for 2 or 3 weeks, and then he'd come back, because he was very close to my mom. My mother was closest naturally to the older siblings next under her, than the younger ones, of course, because as the years went by, things got better for Grandma and Grandpa, and they were able to provide more for the younger members of Mom's family, her younger siblings. And so life for them was not as difficult as it was for the older siblings. And but Mom was very close with Uncle Melv and Aunt Myrtle and Uncle Johnny. Uncle Johnny was sort of in the middle, and of the siblings, and he was my favorite uncle of my mother's brothers. I really liked Uncle Melv, but I think I was still closer to Uncle Johnny. Uncle Johnny, he loved to laugh. He loved to joke about. He just had a good outlook toward life in so many ways, and didn't have the easiest life, but he made the best of any situation. And my mother had said she always felt very close to Johnny, because when Uncle Johnny was born, I guess my grandma had, she had, her children were like, my mother was the oldest of 10, and they weren't all that far apart in age, and so it would have been like, stair steps in a lot of ways, and so there were all these kids, and my mother said that, like, she had to step up and help her mother. I guess after Uncle Johnny was born, either, I don't know this for sure, I just speculate that Grandma must have had a hard time with birthing Uncle Johnny, or it was just Grandma was ill after. And so my mother had to step up and look after Uncle Johnny. And she said, in a lot of ways, she says, it was like having my own baby. And of course, that definitely would bring you close. And they always were. And my mother had 4 brothers, and they all passed on before my mother, and I think, I know when Uncle Johnny passed, I know it was very hard on my mom, and my mother, as I say, my mother lived to be 93, She would have been 94 had she lived 3 more months. She was born on Christmas Day, and in 1921, and she passed on September 18th, 2015. And my Aunt Marion, who was the next under Mom, the next girl under Mom, there was Doug, Melv, and then Marion, and she just passed recently. She was 97, in her 98th year. So far, she has lived the longest of any of my mother's siblings. It remains to be seen with the 3 remaining siblings, girls, just who will, if anybody will surpass Aunt Marion in age or not. And so, time will tell. And they're all older than me. And so none of us know. None of us know when our last breath is going to come. And I think in a lot of ways that's good, because I think otherwise, if you knew, you may not even make it to the time that you would normally have, because you would be worrying, it's like one day closer. I think maybe the one benefit of that might be knowing, if you knew, would be that you have your affairs in order. You have everything in place and everything taken care of, so that you make it the easiest on your family that you can, because it's, trust me, I've gone through the loss of both my parents, and it's one of the hardest experiences you will ever endure. I suppose, like, if you're close, maybe if you're not close, I don't know. I can't speak for somebody like that that's not close to their parents, but I was not close to my mother when I was a young woman. I was always extremely close to my father, and my dad passed when I was 25, and he was just 66. Way too soon. Way too soon. I think Daddy got robbed. And it was hard. It was the last thing I ever expected, that because Dad had not been well for a while, but he always seemed to come back, like he got better, and I thought he would that time as well, but wasn't to be, and Dad went on, and at 25 you might think you know it all, but that is a sudden force of reality that hits you, and that you have to cope with. But I had my mother, and I was fortunate to have my mother for another 40 years. And over the years, especially after I moved to Niagara, my mother and I got closer and closer and closer. And I wish we'd had more time. I always felt like I was trying to catch up to times that had long gone, and you can't change what goes before, as much as you wish you could, but you only get one shot at it, and I'll tell you, if it were possible to change certain things in your life, if you had it to do again, there's a lot of things that I would do differently, and there are some things I would not change one thing about it. But when my mom, as she aged, she was really in not bad shape, good health up until she became 90, and I mean, it was to be expected. Your body's wearing out, and so you know, the next 3 years were not the best for Mom, and I wish, looking back again, I wish I had spent more time with her. I wish I had just gone back and stayed there with her, but I went as often as my life allowed me to, and as I was still working full-time and at my residential cleaning service that I operated for 28 years, and so my books, my writing, but I mean things like that, a book signing and an event like that can be canceled. It's not the be-all of everything, and it takes a second, like a back seat, at least it should. Your family must always come first, and but there was a few times that I didn't go because of an event that I should have gone, and I regret that. I so regret that, and I hope that my mother can forgive me for that, and there again, if I had it to do again, I would have been, canceling a lot of things because they just were not important, not enough to warrant putting my mom on hold or not going when she wanted me to come. And so there's a lesson for all of you out there. If your parents need you, even if they don't need you, make it a point to see them if you can, even if you live in another country. With the internet, with face chat, you can still be in touch with them. You can see them. You can talk to them in real time. And if you can get home to see them, by all means do so. And don't put them off. If they want to talk to you, if they've got things to say, or they want to talk about their life, or they want to reminisce when you were kids and their remembrances and things like this, don't be in a hurry. Don't shut them down. Don't say, well, looking at your watch or looking at your phone, your damn cell phone. Put the damn thing down or turn it off. Give your full attention to your parents or parent. It is so important. It is so very important, because that time is never going to come again, and the time isn't forever. You're not going to have them forever. The same as I hope that you can instill that in your own kids' mind if you have children, that you're not going to be there forever, and there's going to come a day that they're going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to see you, and the only way that can is a picture, if you did videos with them where you can look at it and hear their voice and see them. You can't call them. I still have my mother's phone number programmed in my landline still, after be 8 years this September, and I still have her number programmed in there. I never call it. So obviously maybe after all this time it's been assigned to somebody else. I don't want to know, but I know that she's not going to answer. And you know, I can still hear her voice in my head. I can still see her face. My mother was very determined, some would say stubborn woman. My dad always used to say that. And Mama used to say, I'm not stubborn, I'm determined. And she used to say, there is a difference. I don't know. If there is, there's not much, but she always took great pride in her appearance, and she did the best she could with what she had to do it with. And you know, I'm much more fortunate, I think, in many ways than my mom was. God, I miss her. I miss her so much. And that is something that what you go through when you lose your parent lessens the agony that, I don't know, it's a combination of all of a sudden it's like your protector is no longer there, and you can feel anxious and afraid at times, but that over time lessens, because you know you have to stand on your own 2 feet, and you have to be strong, and you have to continue to move forward, because life does not end when you lose someone so dear to you. Life goes on, and you must go on with it. And so but that void, that hole that it leaves inside of you, it never fills in, it never lessens. As I say, 48 years now since my father's been gone. And the hole is still as big as it was that he left. And I love him more, I think, now than I did then. And the same with my mother. And so, you know, if I have messages in any of my videos where I'm not talking about my work or whatever, I'm just talking about life, that would be my message today, I guess. Try to take it to heart and you know, do what you can to make your parents' life as easy for them as it possibly can be, and listen to what they have to say, and make sure that you're present for them for as long as they need you, because as I say, there's going to come a day and they're not going to be there. So now I'm over the 30-minute mark. It's amazing, you know, like if you're sitting, like they used to say, a watched kettle never boils. And that's true. It can seem like a half an hour, can sometimes seem like an eternity. when you're just sitting waiting for something that's got to be a half an hour from now before it happens or it's ready or whatever. But when you're doing something like a video, then it's like bang, half an hour is gone in no time. And that's what's happened again. And so I must zip it and carry on for the afternoon. I hope that you all have a good afternoon, the rest of it. Have a good morning if you're still back there, or a good evening if you're that far ahead. And I'll be back again soon with a new video. I don't know what I will talk about in that one, but yeah, I'll always pull something out of my hat when the time comes. So God's blessings to each of you. Please like this video. Please share it on. Please comment it. I know I ask this all the time. Never comments. I don't know, but I'll keep asking because I'm not giving up. And I'm just as determined as my mother. And for those who know me personally, who can vouch for that. And so please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thank you so much to everybody out there who has subscribed. It means so very much to me. So you all take care, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.